Hey TCSTV viewers, it's Evelyn coming to you live from the camera store tonight because we're excited to present a Lensbaby Tech Talk. And this is a live show, so of course anything can happen, but we have a great TCSTV live dream team working behind the scenes to make everything go as smoothly as possible. And tonight we have Gary and Graham working behind the camera. And this event is sponsored by Lensbaby, and so a big shout out to their team tonight. We've worked really well with Jonathan, Michael, and Lindsay to pull all this kind of stuff together, and tonight we're also honored to have the Lensbaby co-founder, Craig Strong, join us to talk a little bit about what Lensbaby is all about, as well as some of the new exciting products that we've seen over the last few months. And we're also going to just talk about some tips and ways that you can use Lensbaby to get creative with your photography. It's perfect time up here in Canada. You know, it's just becoming spring, so there's lots of flowers and stuff like that in bloom. So it's just such a great time to be able to experiment with some fun new tools. And the best part about going live is being able to interact with all of you. And so we have a couple ways that you can do that. You can either join the chat on YouTube, or if you're someone that's not logged into YouTube, I also have my email open as well. So you can email me, evelyn@thecamerastore.com, and you can send your questions to me there as well, and we'll make sure we get to as many as we can. And lastly, before I introduce our guests, again, I want to just thank Lensbaby in general. They're such a great team, and we're actually a Canadian partner of Lensbaby, and so if you're in Canada and you want to order some, just head over to thecamerastore.com and we'll hook you up. We do free shipping for all orders over $100, and we carry all the major mounts for things like Canon, Fujifilm, Sony, E-mount, Nikon, and more. So our guest tonight is Craig Strong, and Craig is the co-founder and chief creative officer at Lensbaby Incorporated, and he actually transitioned from a staff photographer where he worked at weekly newspapers for photographing for the Los Angeles Times, the New York Times, Sports Illustrated, and numerous other magazines. Very well seasoned, and he also spent over a decade doing freelance commercial wedding portrait work, basically a little bit of everything. But the lack of ideal, affordable tools to realize his photographic vision made him turn it over to making the tools that he needed. And so I want to welcome Craig Strong. Thanks so much for joining us on TCSTV Live. Excellent. Oh, I think I'm not getting audio through. You guys hearing okay? No. Oh, dear. Of course, as soon as we go live, we're having some glitch.
Testing 1, 2. Am I here?
Oh, there we are.
There we
You guys
are.
hear him? Thank you.
So it must be there.
Excellent. Okay, well, thanks
right.
everyone for your patience.
No
all right,
problem.
Craig, thanks. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Evelyn. It's always great to talk to you. So thanks for having me back.
Fantastic. Well, Craig, maybe you can start off by talking a little bit about your history with Lensbaby. I mentioned briefly that you weren't satisfied with the affordable tools that were on the market, so you made some. What was that journey like for you?
Well, at the time, I was just looking for a unique look. And because I had transitioned, I was one of the first photographers in my area, anyhow, that transitioned to digital. All of a sudden, every shutter click was free, and I had already made that investment. And so I just started playing and started putting crazy lenses in front of my camera, and got invited by Kevin Kubota to teach at a workshop, and I didn't really have anything to teach. And so I came up with Lensbaby. But for me, had that not happened, which then led to realizing that, hey, other people want this, and they want something that ended up being so far an 18-year evolving line, and they just keep coming back for more, which is fantastic, because I didn't envision the community that would come around these crazy little products, and that's really the most valuable part, and that's where I get most of my ideas. But at the time, I was a photographer. Like you said, I worked in newspapers and had gone freelance in '93 and started working for bigger newspapers and magazines and whatnot. And so each step along the way for me was I was making a little pivot to say, oh, I haven't learned this about photography. I haven't learned this. And so for me, in the late 90s, I started getting interested in fine art and more of the imperfection that could come from older gear, plastic lenses, and the things that I really, like I said, I was shooting film. I wasn't that interested in. But once I picked up a digital camera, I was like, okay, what can I do with this? And that's where it started.
Can you talk a little bit about what Lensbaby is all about in terms of kind of going against the grain? I mean, right now in the camera market, right here in TCSTV, we often talk about all these products that are trying to reach perfection in terms of,
Right.
optical sharpness and detail and things like that. So, what is it that Lensbaby does to create your products?
Well, we have gone in a different direction where we're looking for the things that aren't common in terms of optical effects that you can get from your lenses. And we do that both with lenses, which is how we started in 2004. Our very first original Lensbaby came out, and it was a squishy little lens, and it was unique, and that was my innovation, was the mechanics of focusing by squeezing, and being able to tilt was just a nice little bonus there. Um, and we also do that with filters, and you're looking at, you see this rainbow thing here and a little bit of reflection going on here, which is part of the Omni system. So we've got a multifaceted direction to be able to add things into your image that most camera manufacturers are trying to get rid of with, it's something simple like hoods to get rid of the flare. As a photographer, I would tend to shoot into the sun whenever I could, take my hood off, and those are definitely things that I still do as a photographer. But then to be able to go the next step and intentionally bring those things that you're normally avoiding in, and seeing what can that add in terms of emotion, in terms of matching my subject matter. Uh, we're all about options.
Um, Now, Dave and I on the channel, we've had an opportunity to test out the Soft Focus 2, which is the second iteration of this optic. And it's kind of cool because for people that are already in the Lensbaby system, if they have a Composer Pro or a Composer Pro 2, they can actually just buy the optic and drop it right into their existing system. And the idea behind this is basically to be able to have some impressionistic options, as you're saying, like really get creative. But then you can also get sharp details as well when you're going with a tighter aperture, and you can play around with it, which we really enjoyed. And we love just the setup. It's awesome. It includes the different aperture discs, so you can do things like some different starburst effects, and just really loved all of the things that went into it. Maybe can you share some of the images and the story behind that lens?
I can. Let me give just a quick primer on what the optic swap system is. The optic swap system includes optics like the Soft Focus 2 that I have here, and it includes lens bodies. So this is the Composer Pro 2. This one will tilt. It'll also lock straight ahead, which is generally how we recommend you use the Soft Focus 2. And we also sell it in a fixed body. So we've got multiple bodies that are available, including right now the fixed body, the Spark, which is Spark 2.0. This is Spark 1.0, but it's a squishy body like that very first optic, and you focus by squeezing. I've got too many things in my hands, otherwise I'd put it on a camera. And then we have, oh shoot, I'm thinking we have 11 different optics right now, but I have not counted those up. So you can change the effect, you can change the focal length, you can change the way you focus by changing the lens body. And so that's the basis for this. And so the Soft Focus 2 is the optic, and that's a f2.5 down to f22 optic. And like you said, at the brighter apertures, you get something more impressionistic. At the darker apertures, you get something more like a normal lens. And it also has drop-in aperture discs that you can put in that have this one's a little sunburst shape, and we also have multi-hold apertures which blend the softness from the outside of the optic or the optical design with the sharpness from the center in different ways than just opening the 12 bladed aperture that is in there, which you can use in combination if you want to. There's all sorts of things you can do. But let me now share my Lightroom catalog with some images here. We're going to start with an image of one of our beta testers and longtime Lensbaby users. This is Stephanie DeFranco, and she's got her soft focus 2 in her Composer Pro 2. And so that's how these images were made. In general, all of these samples from our beta testers were pointed straight ahead. There's not a real compelling reason to tilt this, although I do challenge all of our users to prove me wrong on that. The I love pictures of dogs. So I'm gonna, anytime I have an opportunity to show a picture of a dog, it's just an amazing image. So well, sometimes better than others, but the emotion that comes through just from the glow, just from the subtle difference that you're getting here feels more nostalgic. You can see the effect of the multi-hold aperture on the highlights, as well as blending the glow. You can see around the bright areas when they're next to dark. Something really simple like this just adds with those two little bursts of bokeh that are happening in the upper right and the upper left, along with the glow. Lots of different bokeh things and glow. So this is probably wide open with one of the definitely with one of the multi-hold apertures. What I
To that picture there, so in the bokeh balls or the specular highlights, that's from one of the drop-in magnetic discs that you're getting that effect. Is that right?
Yep. That's from one of the multi-hold apps where it has a standard aperture hole in the center, and these are drop-in and they're held in by magnets. And and then it has an array of smaller holes in rows or circles around that, and so that balances the softness on the edge with the sharpness in the center, and then it also creates these specular highlights. If we didn't have the specular highlights, but we had a strong pattern, it would change the texture of the background in more subtle ways.
Gotcha. Thanks.
And without a multi-hold aperture in there, you can just see these beautiful just big bulbous blooming lights where you can see on the right hand side behind the little van here, the Kodak van. Normally you would have the highlight, the brightest part of these out of focus areas in the dead center of your image, but because of the optical design, you can see that is weighted toward this, they're all pointing toward the center of the optical circle. And so that's just a small little artifact that you see in these. A lot of people use this optic for just pretty amazing macro work, partly because as you stop it down, and you generally shoot macro stop down, or you want that option, it becomes this very sharp corner to corner optic. And then as you open it up, it becomes more of an impressionistic glow and painterly look. Yeah, and this is stop down. Yeah, I'm thinking it's stopped down to about f11, and in Jerry Jones' photo here. And what's great is just by opening it up, you're going to get a completely different look. And something at infinity or essentially at infinity as far as a 50mm lens is concerned. With a normal lens, you're not even going to see when you're wide open. You might see a tiny bit of depth of field, but you could get 8 different looks on this just by opening up and stopping it down. Again, you've got all the specular highlights doing crazy things because of the multi-hold apps. And then Barbara Corley does just amazing work at this lake near her home. And every time I see a photo of it, she's gone into, I'm sorry, she's she's brought a different piece of the soul of this place, and with different lenses and whatnot. And she's just done amazing work with soft focus 2 as well. You can see the flare that's coming in from the right when you don't have, well, in this particular instance, when you don't have a multi-hold or shaped app in place. So this is very busy because you're essentially multiplying the number of specular highlights by, I don't know, I'm thinking 20 here for every single out of focus point of light. And so you take that multi-hold app out and it's going to become a much more simple image. And then this is a very simple image with just a very subtle glow. So there's just a lot of looks that you can get with this. And I'm always surprised when I see something that was never intended to be used for landscapes to see these amazing landscapes with. But the reality is we don't really intend any of our stuff to be used in a particular way anymore, just because we know people are going to use it the way they're going to use it.
Your team was saying that when this first came out, you know, you've had people that say like, "Hey, I want to use it in this way," and you're like, "Oh, well, that is a good way you could use it," and that you guys tend to adapt and actually change sometimes your product mix just based on that demand and those suggestions maybe from your ambassadors or beta testers, and it's great to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you see people gravitating toward what traditionally a soft focus lens has been used. An Imagon lens might be used for an image like this, and applying it to something that historically would be the kind of subject matter that our legendary photographers of the 1800s used soft focus lenses for. And then this is just an example of the kind of just simplifying everything to say this is the Sunburst app that comes with it. So you get a Sunburst app and you get 3 multi-hold apps with the soft focus 2. And you know, if you eliminate everything else, this is the kind of effect that you get. And then stop it down and you've got a beautiful landscape or whatever you want to use it for lens. So very versatile. Yeah, a lot of emotion can be brought through with what we generally think of as imperfections, because the older lenses, the more nostalgic images that we see historically, they were shot with lenses that just couldn't be perfect.
A lot of the times people talk about lens character. I mean, these lenses are essentially character lenses. That's what they're built for.
Yep, exactly. And I tend to shoot like my Nikkor 50mm f1.4. I shoot it at 1.4 not because of the depth of field, but because it adds that very subtle softness. It's an old one. The new one's too perfect, wide open. But the AFD it just has something. It has some soul to it, and yet, you know, once you go down to f2, it's gone, and then from then on, it's perfect. Oh, we got another dog. It must be the end of these. So this is the end of our soft focus 2, and again, just being able to look into the soul of this beautiful little creature. We have them for fleeting years, and it's just nice to be able to capture that in a way that feels different and unique.
Talk a little bit about the different mount options that are available. So for the soft focus 2 in particular, we have the Sony E mount, which works with the whole mirrorless system. The Nikon F mount, which is for the DSLR cameras, but can also be adapted to mirrorless if you have an F mount adapter. And then same thing with the Canon EF mount, you know, traditionally made for the DSLR mount, but you can adapt it as well. Now, one of the things that I just love about the setup is just how easy it is to drop in the extra little aperture discs. Do you think you could demonstrate it? Do you have your unit there?
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be a little distant because I'm not on an autofocus lens here, so I can't hold it right up. But so we've got the aperture discs here, and inside of the soft focus 2, there's 3 little magnets that the aperture discs are attracted to, and they will hold in place. So let me grab this guy. So this is the Sunburst app. I'm just going to drop it down in place. And now I have a Sunburst app shaped aperture. I'm generally going to shoot this wide open. So I'm going to open it all the way up to f2.5 and get the most amount of effect from that from the edges of the lens, and then the biggest amount of blooming of the highlights from the shape.
I also love that it comes with a tool that has a magnet on it to easily pop it out, and then the lid.
Yep.
It's like
so then we've got the tool has a little magnet on the end of its pick, and we grab that. Let's see, I always get prototypes, so they're always harder to use. And then that pulls it out, and now you're ready just to use your internal 12-bladed aperture that you can see there. So you're not stuck to for the normal apertures to having to have round apertures to drop in, which is really helpful because when you focus this wide open, it's really easy to back focus it. So if you stop it down to f8, focus it, open it up, especially on live view or in mirrorless, to be able to, it's always live view with mirrorless, to be able to stop it down to f8, focus, open up, don't change your focus, don't change your subject to camera distance, take your image, and what you'll see is the underlying detail is as sharp as it can be, and the glow is as glowy as it can be for that particular aperture with sharp underlying detail. So so yeah, it's a nice thing, and that's the main difference that we see here between the soft focus 2 and the soft focus 1, which came out in 2009, is that we have a 12-bladed aperture that makes it so you don't have to stop it down to a particular aperture with a drop-in disc.
Okay. Now, if someone purchases the kit that comes with the Composer Pro 2, as well with the soft focus, if they had previous drop-in lenses, or if they're interested in buying a kit, or maybe even they like find one used or something like that, they can also use the same configuration to drop those lenses into, right?
Absolutely. Yep. And we are actually selling. We had so much demand for this to be coming in the Composer Pro 2. We are actually selling it in all mounts in the Composer Pro 2. I believe it's all mounts, but it is available in Composer Pro 2 as well.
Fantastic. Awesome. Any other tidbits, or did you want to, we can chat about maybe some other stuff?
I'm just thrilled that people are again surprising us with how much they're embracing a different look for the optic swap system. And the soft focus 1 had become such a cult lens that it was pretty much impossible to find anywhere. And you know, my apologies to somebody that paid $500 for it right before we came out with this one, but to be able to come out with something that had obviously been resonating with the community was awesome. And then, you know, they've just embraced it like crazy. So it's fun.
Fantastic. And yeah, I mean, the pricing has come down from those original models. And so the Lensbaby Soft Focus 2 optic, for those of you that are in Canada, our pricing is $228.47. And then the ones in the different mounts, they're about $350 Canadian. So,
and that's for the fixed body?
Those are for the fixed ones, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Got it. Probably a little bit more for the ones in the Composer Pro 2,
yes.
Which isn't necessary to tilt, but if you wanted that body, you can always point it straight ahead and then have that option to go out and get other optics to be able to tilt with it.
Fantastic. Now you alluded to earlier that you have some funky things going on in front of your lens. Should we get into Omni?
Yeah, so Omni, let me show it to you here. and I'll show you the effects. The Omni is a filter system. You can see this ring on the front of my Sony, and that ring is magnetically receptive, and we've got magnetic pieces that will hold the arms, that then hold these individual wands that oh, that's cool, that do various things. And what's great about this is not only do you have an extra hand because you're not holding a prism or a chandelier crystal or whatnot with one hand while you're trying to take pictures over here with the other, but you can, I've got 3 on here right now that I can put in various positions, and I'm using 3 on the camera right now that you're looking at me through. Now this is a wide angle lens or a 35 millimeter lens. Generally, I recommend shooting at 50 millimeters or longer, but certainly you can shoot at a 16 millimeter, whatever you want. It just becomes more impressionistic and less obvious what the effect is at the longer focal lengths at brighter apertures. And what we have here is one of the pieces of our Lensbaby Omni universal pack with reflection inserts. And I'll show you those. The inserts that come with this are various shapes, and they fit on the end of little clamps that are universal that you can put different shapes in and put them in front of your lens. I've got right here, I'm going to pop it off. These little universal clamps are the short ones, and these hold, these are held on by the magnets. And once you've got them on the front of your Omni system, then you can just manipulate it to your heart's desire and get it exactly where you want. This is a partially reflective mirror, so you're seeing my lighting over there, and you're kind of seeing me through that. What's great is it becomes a fun mirror when you start to distort it, and I don't know that you want to see my face distorted that much, but you can bring all sorts of things in, and then you layer the various partially reflective pieces on top of each other and start shooting through this and whatnot, where not only is it layered, but it's got these specular highlights that come up from and rainbow little things that come up through these holes, the way they're cut in the material. We've got, this is probably the most popular in the kit, which is, we call this the gold silver Swiss cheese. And this one allows you to, again, shoot through. So you're getting, you're seeing through it, sort of. You're sometimes vignetting in all these little holes and whatnot. But I should show you some example photos, because our ambassadors have done amazing work with this, and I should stop talking about it and start showing. So hold on one second. Let's go.
As you look with all the different reflectors, I think your ambassadors have done some pretty amazing examples here.
Haven't they? It's really great. And sometimes it's just to bring something that looks like flare, self-portrait here that Rich is making, just a really subtle flare of bringing that reflection in from down below, or from a light source. I'm not sure what we're looking at there, but let's see if I can, there we go. And then, like I said, as you're shooting at the brighter apertures, or this appears to be a sweet spot lens, and as you shoot at the brighter apertures, or you have a shallower depth of field and the longer focal lengths, then you get a more impressionistic effect. You don't necessarily see this. This could be multiple things, looking through a partially rolled down window on a car, but then being able to repeat it and fine tune it and put 4 or 5 different effects going in at once, or at least 2 or 3 as an option, is pretty cool.
Adds a little bit of magic.
Yeah, and I know, looking at this, being that the bokeh has a texture to it, and we've got these rainbow crazy things going on, that this is one of the Swiss cheese pieces, because that's what those holes will do to the incoming light, especially when it's coming in at an angle. And just, I mean, this could have been done just purely lens flare. And I don't like having to depend on my perfect lenses that are minimizing flare to get flare, because I may have had to get really low and had the sun right behind my subject matter in order to get any flare at all. But with the Omni system, I've got just a lot of variety to redirect the sun, to do various things that introduce those imperfections. Things can be done really subtly. I have no idea how this was done, but I know it was done with the reflections using the Omni Universal, because that's what Melissa did. It says she did, and it's cool. And those are the kind of things that, for me, if I can look at an image and say, I love that the effect is adding to the image, it's not detracting, and it's mysterious, I'm not sure how it's done, that's a success story for me. Again, a lot of flare coming in from the upper left. Oof. Love that layer of the clouds. It's coming in. And again, bringing something bright into your subject matter when everything is super flat light adds some interest here. Now this is shot with the soft focus 2 with the Starburst app. You can see the texture of the bokeh on the right hand side that gives us another point of interest. And again, I'm not sure how the Omni Universal was used in this. Potentially that's the Swiss cheese, and it's picking up specular highlights that the Starburst app is then giving shape.
Craig, I love that it ends up producing truly like a one-of-a-kind image, because as you're saying, you don't know exactly where they've placed it or which piece they've used, and it would be something that would be more challenging for others to recreate.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how this was done. Some of the pieces are flexible, and so was this just kind of spun up right beneath it in kind of a crescent or a radius there that gave that? I don't know. It's great. The mystery of it is awesome. Now, Jerry did something really cool with this, because that I look forward to more people trying. Once you get this, these universal clamps that come on a handle or just come on a ball that can go straight onto the Omni filter, the ring, you can clamp anything. She went to a craft store and found this multicolored holographic type shiny film and put that behind one of her Swiss cheese pieces. And so the holes were picking up just this burst of color, and I believe she used that as a background for this, but I don't know. Again, love the mystery. Another Swiss cheese option here. I'm craving cheese now.
Sandwich after, maybe.
Yeah, there we go. And of course you can make it look like we've got water and reflections and add all sorts of stuff. This in the lower left, this was shot with Velvet 28, and actually looks like it was shot with something else because of the sweet spot. But the lower left-hand corner of having that distorted reflection using the bendable. These are also cuttable, so you can cut them into any shape you want, and make just exactly what you want, so that you can hold it in 2 clamps if you want, in a crescent. I love what Jerry's done with this, because she actually used this in front of the light. So it looks like it was in front of the light and in front of the lens. Either that or she had 2 of them going on. So because the pack comes with 2 Swiss cheeses. This looks like something out of Willy Wonka. I love it. Just a little subtle highlight in the upper right-hand corner. Again, we've got some flare, lowering the contrast, bringing in something that you know, a normal lens, which looks like it was shot with, is just going to give you a literal translation of this image. And so Holly brought something into the right-hand side of this image that couldn't otherwise easily been done. And what's nice about the Omni system is that it's repeatable. You're not holding it and moving it a tiny bit each time. It's once you put it in place, you can keep it there. It almost looks like another world, another dimension. And then using the Swiss cheese, the see-through Swiss cheese, in a more literal fashion as well, to be able to get this, you know, it's a vignetter, but it's not just vignetting the corners, it's vignetting this texture into your images. And then putting a flexible reflective piece on either side. It comes with four flexible cuttable reflective pieces that are, let's see, about 6 inches by 4 inches, maybe 5, I don't know, something like that. Seems maybe almost 5 by 7. And those can be put on either side of your image to get a distortion of what you're after. And that's what Simone did here as well. Now she's shooting on a 28mm. So again, shoot it on whatever you want. Shoot it on a 16, shoot it on an 8mm. I don't care. When I recommend 50mm or longer and wide open, that's just because that's more of a subtle effect. You're not going to necessarily see that you're using a particular wand or a particular effect. Now, what's really fun is that you can turn these into little, you know, rolls and create a, you know, a tube out of them. And I believe that's what Jerry, oh, no, that's not what she did. She used the Omni Swiss cheese. So again, an unexpected flare came out of those holes, came out of the edges of those holes and what it was doing to the light. And enhancing the water. And because this Swiss cheese has gold on one side and silver on the other, doing that at a steep angle is gonna add some tone to that reflection that's coming in. All right, that is my Lightroom. Let's stop the share. Go.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
So one of the other things that I wanted to comment on is just how you guys always do such a good job of putting packaging together that it feels like it would make, you know, like a nice gift, or it's just something that you can take around. And I love just the pouch and everything that it comes with. Everything's really just well put together, which is great. And then of course these are the pieces that he was talking about.
Yeah. So we've got the cuttable pieces. There's also a non-cuttable that you know, is a little thicker. You can still bend it a little bit. And then that's a see-through. I do want to give a tip on each one of these pieces, including the one in my hands, comes with a protective film on both sides. What you want to do is take the little spudger pointy tool, and instead of picking at the very, very corner of the part, when you get it, you want to pick at the just off the edge. And so just kind of slide it on that edge until it starts to pick up on the corner, and then bring it off. There's actually 2 protective pieces of film here that I'm peeling off right now. They put 2 on because the one closest to the mirroring is the easiest, has a little less stick. But then that if you stay away from the actual edge of the part, then you won't damage it by peeling away the actual mirroring or the part that protects the mirroring. So yeah, so all of them have that. And the other way you can do is just use the tip of your finger until it comes off, but sometimes that can take a while. So
I love again that included in the pack is this little card, and it includes the picker and a QR code so that you can actually figure out how to do everything. Gives you some information. So I love that. Yeah, really really nice stuff. Yeah, let's see here. We've got some questions. And feel free, if you guys have any questions about the Omni system, about the Soft Focus 2, or other Lensbaby products, just while we have Craig here, feel free to pop them in the chat. Yeah, one of the questions here is, how do you go about figuring out the best placement for some of these items? Is it just experimental, or do you have any tips on how you can kind of get started and get some of those positionings in place?
that's a great question. I think, the number one thing is to look at what other people are doing and look at the instructions that we've got online that show you different ways to set it up. Like I said, I don't know if I can show you in a mirror what I'm doing here. It doesn't really show very well, but I've got this guy as kind of a barn door on my on the front of my lens, and so I've got two of the clamps at the bottom. I'll just pull them off again, and those two clamps allow me to just rotate that in and out and not have to worry about vignetting. I can actually move one of the magnets completely off the ring. So one is just seeing what's possible, what other people are doing. And from there, I would say, yes, just like with any Lensbaby product, there is a learning curve, and going out and experimenting. Don't let what we say you can do with it limit you. So, for one thing, and just say, okay, what can I do? What can I do mechanically with this to mount it a little differently? What can I do in a way that nobody's done before? But for the most part, like when I set this up earlier, I was just taking, this is a three-sided triangle prism. I was just looking for, okay, how do I get a little bit of flare in that upper left? Oh, that's kind of cool. And then I stopped. And how do I get this rainbow film to give a nice, craziness in the upper right? And then once I found the kind of effects that I'm after just by rotating things and moving them around, I'm going to stop. I can come up from the bottom with yet another one because I've got four of them on here. But pretty soon I'm overly, obscured, and so then it's like, okay, well, where do we go from here, and what are we going to do next? And what I love about this is in about what was that, like 2 seconds, we're done. All my wands are still stored on the front of my lens. So if I'm just like, hey, I'm not finding anything that works, the light's too flat, the light's too harsh, whatever it is, the effect's too much, the effect's too little, I can just say, okay, I don't have time to take all of these off, store them in the case, not have to worry about it. I want to get this moment that's in front of me, but I want no effect. So boom, this has got an effect because we're looking through the Burnside with the swirl in the background, but all of the Omni effects now are off of your screen, but they're accessible to me to where I can just, pull them right back in really quickly and start rotating and start finding stuff that it's like, okay, yeah, let's start that over again. So go out and play. There's a learning curve with everything Lensbaby because it's all manual, it's all analog. And in this world of digital where you've got infinite options after you've taken a perfect picture to make it imperfect, which is great, they get way more interesting when you start adding those. I enjoy being part of the process in the field, and that's what Lensbaby is all about. And so both Omni and all of our lenses, they bring that to photographers that want to be more a part of the process in the field. I take different pictures when I'm looking through the effect, when it's an optical effect, rather than thinking 4 steps ahead. What am I going to do with this, in Lightroom? And I spend less time in front of my computer.
Awesome. Well, I have a couple of questions for you here. This one is, if you have the original composer and you're using it with an adapter and you buy just the optic, will it fit in the original composer?
It will, absolutely. Yeah, the original composer we don't recommend for the heavier optics like the Edge 35. Actually, any of the Edge optics, because the Edge 80 creates vignetting because the back of the ball is a little small. But it'll work perfect, especially pointed straight ahead with the soft focus too.
Just popped up here for Melissa. I just bought the Composer Pro Suite 50 lens. Can you talk a little bit about the Suite 35 and 50?
Absolutely. Let me grab them here. I've got, looks like I've got a Suite 80. I saw a Suite 35. There we go. So the optics, I'm going to put one in a storage case so you see how they come. So the optics come in a little case with a front cap and a rear cap, and the rear cap has a spanner wrench for the older optics because some of the like the Spark, the original Spark, has an optic in there that you can't just grab with your hands and take out like you can all the others. And so this has 3 little posts there that go into 3 little notches, and now I can pull that out and put any of the optic swap optics into my Spark. So this is how they come. And the Suite 35 and the Suite 50 have a small sweet spot. The Suite 50, as you stop it down, that sweet spot grows more than it does with the Suite 35, to where when you stop all the way down, only your corners are going to have a little bit of effect. And if you're pointed straight ahead. And with the Suite 35, the sweet spot's a little bit smaller as you stop it down, and it doesn't grow quite as much. Wide open with the Suite 35, what you get is these halos with this beautiful, it's almost like a bubble bokeh, where you get this halo of extra light around your ellipse of light, and the ellipses all point toward the center of the sweet spot. I will tell you one focusing technique that I use, because sorry for my cough. One focusing technique, because it is easy to get lost, like where is my sweet spot in this image? And if you're not pointed straight ahead, which is the best way to learn how sharp the sweet spot can be at any given aperture, is to go out and not tilt, point it straight ahead, and then you can know to look in the center of your image for the sharpness. Because if you're tilted, you're not sure if it's here or here or here. And so that's the best way to learn. But let's say you're tilted, you're not sure exactly where it can be as sharp as possible. If you lock down your Composer Pro, Composer Pro 2, and keep that tilt, focus the optic all the way in, closest to the sensor, and what you'll see is you can point it down at something 8 feet away, like the grass works well, a forest, something at infinity usually is far, close enough that you can still see your focus past that forest. And in the center of the sweet spot, you'll see a donut of focus. So similar to the swirl that you see behind me that says the center of my lens is in the middle of that swirl, like these are going around that. So that donut of focus will tell you where your sweet spot is. Now you can look for your focus in that spot of the viewfinder, as long as you don't change your tilt, and focus on anything. Just keep your tilt the same, look for that same spot of focus, and that's where your lens can be the sharpest. Because it's easy to back focus. You end up with a donut, your center of your sweet spot is out of focus, and then you've got this halo of focus around, intersecting various things in your image, which can be really cool, but that halo won't be quite as sharp as your sweet spot could have been.
Another question here from Debbie. She has the Spark and was wondering if you could talk just a little bit about that, any tips you have for using it.
Absolutely. Let me put that on my Nikon camera here. I've got a original Spark here, but the same is true for the Spark 2.0. The original Spark, most people don't know that you can pull out the optic and change the effect. So I just pulled out the Spark optic, which was set at f5.6, had a curved field of focus, so a nice big sweet spot, pretty easy to focus, although it was dark and it was only available for SLRs. So if you didn't go into live view and you didn't have a lot of light, sometimes it was hard to focus. But what I've got here is now the Edge 50. The Edge 50 has a slice of focus, so the entire effect has changed. Focal length is the same. And as I tilt that slice of focus, a little bit of tilt, I'll have a wide slice of focus. A lot of tilt, I'll have a very shallow slice of focus. But this, I love the combination of any of our edge optics with the Spark, because it's just fluid, and you see this slice intersecting, and you can move your focus. I love it. It's a great combo. But at any rate, the Spark works with any of our optics. I'm going to put the Spark optic back in, and the way I focus this, even now, I don't tilt this to begin with. The original Spark has a tilt limiter in it when it's used with the Spark optic, because we felt it tilted too far if it wasn't in there. The Spark 2.0 doesn't, so I would recommend for both of them, focus by pulling all the way flat. Nothing will be in focus. Let straight out until you see the center of your image come in sharp focus, and only after you've found your center focus do you want to just kind of ease your way into a tilt to move your sweet spot around. The only reason to tilt a sweet optic is to move your sweet spot around. It's never going to be normal because it has a curved field of focus that is intersecting your subject matter and then coming back toward the camera. So if you're shooting through, say, a chain link fence, you'll have a donut of focus in the chain link fence. The center of the chain link fence, you might not even see the pattern of wires, and then you're because they're so out of focus, and then your subject in the center of your image or in the center of your sweet spot will be in focus in the distance. So pull all the way back, look as you're letting go, as you're letting out, look for your sweet spot in the center, and then only after you've found that sweet spot to be sharp in the center do you want to start tilting.
Excellent.
And
Okay. Yeah.
start to learn at f4 or f5.6 on your Sweet 50.
Love it. Fantastic. All right, Craig. Well, just to start wrapping things up tonight, one of the things I wanted to ask you is today, now you have some new products in the mix. What is your current favorite Lensbaby?
Oh my goodness. Wow. My current favorite Lensbaby is the Obscura 16. Let me grab it here. Yeah. Oh, good. Got another fan. Looks like I may have obscured my collection here a little bit, but the Obscura 16 is a 16 millimeter 3-setting pinhole lens. It uses technology that allows us to make for the actual imaging element. It's not a lens, but it allows us to print in silver or copper. No, it's nickel. It's black nickel on glass. Incredible resolution. A zone plate and a pinhole sieve. And a pinhole sieve is just what it sounds like. It's a whole bunch of pinholes in a crazy array that focuses the light. So it's way brighter than a pinhole. Lets in, I think, 8 times as much light as the pinhole setting. So it has a pinhole setting, just a little tiny hole that bends the light through diffraction. And then the pinhole sieve, each one of those little holes bends the light through diffraction. And then a zone plate, which is the center hole, is the same size as the pinhole. And then each one of the rings of clear as you move out. I don't remember how many rings we have, but it's way brighter than either of the other two settings. So this is reducing your options for what you're going to portray of the world dramatically. Anything with Lensbaby is doing that to some extent, or at least based on your choices for tilt and aperture. But with the pinhole, and for me, the 16mm pinhole is the one that and that's available only for mirrorless. That's the one that I gravitate to, because generally pinholes tend to be very, very wide open or wide angle, and I find them a little more interesting than the 50mm version, which we offer in the optic swap system, which is also amazing. But yeah, that's my favorite right now, and I love the technology because it makes for a very durable, pretty much indestructible pinhole element with all three of those options, and each option is completely different. The zone plate has a sweet spot, even though it's f/22, which you would think that everything would be in focus at f/22. The pinhole sieve has more detail than the pinhole, and it's more of the same effect, but with a glow and underlying detail. And then the pinhole itself, it's all about contrast. It's all about composition. It's all about looking at something and saying, how, with these limited tools, am I going to portray what I feel about the scene through an image that doesn't have the luxury of pin sharp details, or tack sharp details. So anyhow, that's why.
Okay, and I promise Mary and I squeeze in her email question here at the end, and I'm not sure, yeah, if you know this or not, but since your glasses wear, I will ask. So she
Yes.
says, I'm short-sighted and wear glasses to see distance. I love to photograph Christmas lights and create interesting photos with zoom or other camera movement with the lights. When I take my glasses off, the lights look super cool, and I'd love to figure out how I could recreate what I see with my camera. I've tried just not focusing with my camera lens, but it doesn't get the look that she sees without her glasses. Is there Lensbaby lens that would help get the blurry look?
I love that question. And that brings up a couple other questions, but the biggest thing is I can't see through her eyes. And so that's an experimental, that's something to be able to say, okay, I'm going to try all the apertures. I'm going to try all the focus settings. I'm going to see. It sounds simple because you say you're nearsighted, that you would focus close and then see what happens in the background. Honestly, I would think that the Velvet 28, because when you introduce spherical aberrations, which is the main way that all of our velvets create their effect, you're also introducing what's almost an infinite focus underneath those spherical aberrations and the glow. It's not infinite, but it's shocking how much detail is under there, with a fairly wide depth to it. So that's geeking out a little bit, but I would say that the Velvet 28 is probably her best bet. And I say that partly because for me, I have astigmatism. I'm also close focus. I focus at about 7 inches. Fortunately, I can read without glasses, which at my age most people can't. But for me, I see the night sky in a certain way, and I didn't have glasses until my mid-20s, and the Velvet 28 portrays it in that way. And Evelyn, do we have a moment? Because I'd like to show an image of the night sky here with
Absolutely.
that. So, okay, let me see if I can't find that. But yeah, so the velvets in general are going to give a very organic sense of the brighter apertures of what's going on with highlights and whatnot. I'm looking for Neo-Wise because I shot Neo-Wise with it. There we go.
I mean, velvety kind of glow. You get that ethereal kind of look to it. So I see what you're saying. I think that would be a really good choice for to try and experiment with.
Yeah. I'm going to actually take you through several velvet images of the night sky if I can figure out how to share this. There we go. So this is shot with the Velvet 85, and I shot the same subject matter with the 28 this night. We had all of about 3 minutes to capture. It may have been less. It may have been 1 minute with the clouds going through that we actually got neowise in the upper left-hand corner on that scene. And so this blooming of the highlights is something that for me, when I look at the night sky, this is the way I see without glasses. This is actually down here is the space station going by, right with the neowise as well. Here's the Velvet 28 looking straight up. And then let's see, which of these two is better? I'm probably going to go with this one. It's a little lighter. And so this is something for me that I have no idea if it's going to represent the way you see the night sky, but you know, it's the way I see it. So I love the Velvet 28 for night photos.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing those. And thanks everyone for your great questions and for interacting with us tonight. Again, I just really want to thank Lensbaby for being such a great partner for us. We love being the Canadian destination for these products, and all our staff have so much fun with them as well. And so if you want to check out more of our Lensbaby products, more about the Lensbaby story, head over to thecamerastore.com and just click on the Lensbaby logo and you'll see all the details. And the Lensbaby website as well has such a great amount of resources, more sample images. You can also follow them on Instagram and their YouTube channel. And yeah, thanks again, Craig, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Evelyn. It's always great to talk with you.
Fantastic. And of course, for any of you guys, if you want to see more of our live content, please make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell. And if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to email me. Again, it's evelyn@thecamerastore.com. And another little tidbit, if you're still here to the end, is we do have some great specials that are going to be coming up just in time for Father's Day, and so do stay tuned for that. And if you'd like to get on the list for more great deals and things like that, please send me a note to evelyn@thecamerastore.com and I'll make sure to loop you in on all of that great stuff. So we'll catch you again very soon.